Okay, here's a double digest we've been leading up to. The question posed is, you have the same mini prep DNA described as before, which is 3 micrograms per 30 microliters, enzymes BAMH1 and SOL1, 10x buffers for those two enzymes, 1 molar NaCl, and water. What would you add in order to double digest this DNA, assuming that the optimal salt concentration for digestion with BAMH1 is 100 millimolar salt and with SOL1 is 150 millimolar salt? So there's 3 ways to do this problem. The first one, it's not ideal because it removes small fragments, but the way you do that is you do the first restricting digest and then you precipitate it down so that you have the DNA in a pellet and the remaining liquid is just your buffer and your enzyme. You remove the liquid and then you resuspend it with the new buffer and enzyme in order to start over. The second way to do it out of 3 that I'm going to go over right now is continuing on using only one of the buffers for the second enzyme. So throughout the entire reaction, you're going to be using one buffer. In this case, we're going to be doing BAMH1, even though for the second of the 2 restriction digests, it's going to be the SOL1 enzyme. So just like cooking, we want to start with less salt because it's easier to add salt than remove it, which is why we're doing BAMH1, because it's 100 versus 150, so it's smaller. Okay, and just a reminder that 1 molar NaCl is equal to 1,000 millimolar. Okay, so because we're doing the BAMH1, we know that it exists at 100. Okay, but we're at 100, and for SOL1, even though we're not using that buffer, the SOL1 enzyme needs to function. It needs 150 of salt in order to function. So that means we need to increase our salt concentration by 50 millimolar. Okay, so let's start with a 1 in 10 dilution. Okay. So our salt concentration of salt, like we said before, was 1,000. Remember, from up here? Oops, from up here. Okay. So we're going to dilute that by 1 in 10, just moving the decimal point over 1. So that's going to be 100 there. Okay. So a 1 in 10 dilution gives us 100, but we only need to raise it by 50. And so the way you get 50 from 100 is divided by 2. So there you go. There's the math for that. And we had a 1 in 10 times a 1 in 2 is equal to a 1 in 20. So this means that we need to dilute the salt by 20 in order to get the amount we need to give the reaction the correct salt concentration for the SOL1 enzyme. So now that we know we're doing a 1 in 20 dilution, we have, so remember originally we had 22 in the first one, total, in the first restriction digest. And then we're going to add 22 again, right? But in the previous video, remember how we added it up to 42 first instead of 44? We're going to do that again. Okay? So before we add any of the enzyme, we're going to be doing 42. So we need to do a 1 in 20 dilution of the 42 in order to find out how much salt in microliters we're going to have to add. So this is equal to 2.1 microliters of 1 molar salt. So that means we have to add this amount of salt in order to get a reaction that's on the BAMH1 buffer but is suitable for the SOL1 enzyme.